want to tell you today about this powder and these pills. This powder is Gellum gum, and these pills contain carboxymethylcellulose, also known as cellulose gum. They're both gums, and that means that they're both emulsifiers, but they're also both gelling agents. They can be used in beverages, and they can be used in a variety of culinary applications, and interestingly, they can be used as medical devices to help people lose weight. What is a functional beverage? A functional beverage is any beverage that provides some sort of functional benefit to the user. Depending on your definition, this may just require it being a marketing claim of benefits, such as a Olipop or Poppy claiming to help with your gut health, or it could be a real genuine benefit, such as an actual product that helped your genuine gut. Now, there is a whole industry based around functional beverages, and it's been growing pretty rapidly. Some examples of functional beverages might be Gatorade, protein shake, drink with ashwagandha in it. And I'm going to talk to you specifically about one type of functional beverage. A functional beverage so functional that it isn't really commonly used and isn't particularly on the market anymore. Our story begins in the 1990s. I want to talk to you about a beverage that was around from 1996 until 1998 called Orbitz. It was made by the clearly Canadian company, and it was only around for 2 years because it had terrible sales. It cost millions of dollars for the company to actually create the product because of the massive R&D costs to get these little tiny 5mm sized balls of gelling gum to actually float in this liquid in a neutral buoyancy and in such a way that when you shook it, the liquid acted like a liquid where it would move around, and then when you stopped shaking it, it would turn into a gel form in which the balls continued to float and stayed stationary. They advertised it as almost like a lava lamp. This product was only around for 2 years because despite the gimmicky nature of the product that kids seemed to enjoy, the actual product tasted terrible.
Oh, God!
This tastes like you sipped some kid's science experiment.
Like a bad, rotten orange.
Tastes like dog pee.
People said it tasted like cough syrup, pine sol, old water from a flower face. I took one gulp and the sensation was like drinking backwash. When you drink a glass of milk, do you want to find lumps? Bottles are now selling online for anywhere from $50 to $200, being, it has been almost 30 years since this product existed. The thing I'm most curious about is how did they make this lava lamp effect? So to understand that, we first have to understand some physics and formulation. I'm going to start with formulation. What is in Orbitz? Now, according to the packaging, there are 6 ingredients in Orbitz. The first of which is going to be 300-ish milligrams of water. The second is going to be 30-ish milligrams of sugar/corn syrup. The third ingredient is flavor. The fourth and fifth ingredients are citric acid, which is going to make it a little bit more acidic, and sodium citrate, which is going to make it a little bit more basic. Now, why they have the 2 of these, I'm honestly not sure. It's kind of silly to me, but that's neither here nor there. $15 million in R&D. The last ingredient in the formulation is gelling gum. Now, there's probably about 0.06 or 0.09 grams of gelling gum, very little gelling gum here, and this is the key ingredient and what I'm going to be talking about for basically the rest of this video. Gelling gum is the emulsifier in this recipe, but it's specifically a gelling agent that is allowing for these balls to be suspended. Now, how does gelling gum work? So now it's our turn to talk about physics. The way that these balls suspended had 2 parts. The first part being that they were neutral buoyancy. If you imagine you have a boat that is buoyant above the water. If you imagine you have a bowling ball, that is going to sink. So the bowling ball is not buoyant to the water. But there is this concept called neutral buoyancy. That is something that is exactly the same density as the water. But the Orbitz balls themselves are neutrally buoyant with respect to the gelling gum. There's a paper in the Journal of Rheology that kind of describes how this works. And the most notable thing is they have this equation to figure out if you have a liquid with a specific viscosity and this specific amount of force that can be placed down on the liquid before it gives way for an object, how big of an object are you able to have given a certain weight of the object? And they calculate it out, and it's almost exactly the size of these little balls. That's one win for the people at Orbitz. In this paper, they have a graph. Here we have an explanation of what happens in an Orbitz, because when you shake it, when it's in motion, all of those little balls are moving around, right? And when you stop shaking it, they like freeze in place. You've got on this axis, shear viscosity, and on this axis, shear stress. Shear stress on a horizontal axis can be thought of as shakiness. Like how much force is being applied to the bottle? How much am I really shaking this bottle? On the vertical axis, we have shear viscosity, which I think is best thought of as like the thickness of the liquid. So if you have a very sheer viscous liquid, then we're talking kind of like honey. A very sheer, not viscous liquid, we're thinking more like water, right? An easy flow. And if you get really high on the shear viscosity, it starts to form like a gel, almost like jello. Think about like a normal Newtonian fluid. So let's take water as an example. You would expect a very flat horizontal graph here. The shakiness of the liquid isn't actually making any impact on the viscosity of the liquid. If you shake water, it's not suddenly turning into honey, right? At incredibly low shear stresses in Orbitz, we have a thick, viscous liquid. That's it forming like a gel pattern. And then if you shake it almost at all, if there's almost any motion towards this liquid, it turns back into a liquid and it acts like water. And what that means is that when you're shaking the bottle or drinking the bottle, it feels like a liquid. But the second you set it down, it turns into that lava lamp. It's almost completely stopped. Now, this line right here is called the yield stress. And it is such a small amount that you might imagine that when the water is, or when the liquid is moving around in the container, that it's water. But in reality, it's actually water mixed with gel and gum. But it feels just like water, even though it actually has these gel-like properties when it's stationary. One thing I think a lot of viewers might be thinking about is, oh, wow, this is really similar to like oobleck. Now, oobleck is doing the exact opposite of Orbitz. Orbitz is what is called a shear thinning liquid. That means that the more shear force you put on it, it turns more into a liquid. Whereas oobleck, which is cornstarch and water, which you've maybe played with in like a science class or something, oobleck is shear thickening, which means that if you play with it or you punch it, you shake it around, it turns into a solid. It's doing the exact opposite of what Orbitz is doing. In a glass bottle of ketchup, when there's no ability to put a shear stress on it, it's really hard to get the ketchup out of the bottle. Whereas when you have a plastic bottle of ketchup and you're able to put the shear stress on it, the ketchup comes out very easily because it has the shear thinning process whereby applying the force is actually making the liquid thinner. I was a little saddened when I found out that this product hasn't been around for almost 30 years. And then I realized, wait, it is still around. It's just not quite the same product. Now, there are three kinds of drinks that use these exact same properties that I have seen. One is chia seed drinks, one is basil seed drinks, and one is drinks with floating jelly inside of it. All of the ones that I've been able to find either use gel and gum or they use CMC. And we'll talk about CMC a little bit later, but just for now, it's got the same property as gel and gum. I got this international cohort from college, and I got survey data from 60 of them in order to see how common these basil seed, chia seed, or jelly drinks are around the world. And of that survey group, the majority of them had actually had at least one of these types of drinks, which means that they're still somewhat commonly on the market. The thing that's most interesting to me is that there are two kinds of common thickening agents in these products, either gel and gum or CMC. And talking to people, I slowly realized that these products are available almost everywhere on Earth, but the majority of them have gel and gum, and a few of them have CMC. One of the interesting parts is I saw quite a few of these products advertised as health products for weight loss type functional tasks. People from Mexico, Southeast Asia, South Asia. The places that these products are most common that I was able to glean from this data are Mexico, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and in Ukraine. And I found the Ukraine especially interesting because many of the Ukrainians who I talked to said that this product is common and they have never seen someone actually consume one, which I found pretty interesting. These products are still kind of around, and I decided I wanted to go find one for myself. It took me 9 grocery stores, and then I finally, on the way back home, giving up, I stopped at the convenience store next to my house, and there was one.
So I went looking. I found this thing, which has these little jelly bits that float within it, and they're neutrally buoyant, and I was like, ha, I finally found it. But I went through the ingredients, and unfortunately, if it'll, none of these are CMC, or none of these are gel gum. So it looks to me like this is just neutrally floating jelly, and there's not actually any of that gelled nature to it. But it still looks very cool with the little chunks floating around.
What was next? Oh, CMC. Oh, I'm so excited. CMC is the best part of this whole shebang. CMC, also called sodium carbamethylcellulose or cellulose gum, which you may have seen in ice creams or sodas. This product is being used in some weight loss medical devices. Okay, so it's not actually a medication. There's this brand Jellulose 100. They make this product called Plenty, P-E, how's this pronounced? Plenty. There's this company, Jellulose 100, who makes this product Plenty, that is a medical device that's FDA approved, and it feels like a medication. You're taking a pill, but because the product can't actually be digested, what happens is you take the pill and it fills your stomach and it makes you feel full. It makes you feel as if you have been satiated. The way I've been describing this to people is, imagine you're trying to block cars from going through the highway. This is food making you hungry in the metaphor. So imagine you're trying to block cars in the highway. Plenty is kind of like throwing a bunch of bouncy balls on the highway. It's taking up space and it's making it harder for cars to actually go through. GLP-1 medication is more like adding a speed limit to the road. It's making fewer cars go through in a hormonal way rather than in a physical reaction. You could think of eating Plenty or CMC as more like just filling your stomach with cabbage so that you eat less. And it really has worked in many individuals. And the fact that this product is FDA approved for this medical device, but also for food consumption, kind of paves the way for this functional beverage category to actually be able to start to grow. Almost perfectly positioned to be a non-medical alternative product, and functional beverages could and should be attempting to fill this space.
This video began production almost 4 months ago. I got a little carried away with this one. I just kept finding so many interesting things about emulsifiers and about shear forces and about the ways in which functional beverages work in modern society. But I think originally this video was just gonna be look at this weird soft drink from the 1990s, and then I was like, whoa, this soft drink is actually a functional beverage. And in order to describe that, I first need to wind you on this long path about why it works the way it works and what a functional beverage even is and what's the point of caring about all of this and how does this almost medication that is actually medically prescribed to people influence this product. And I just found it so interesting. And if you found it so interesting, I hope you like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And if you didn't find it interesting, blame my brothers.